And I'm just gonna add like a little bit of whipped cream on mine. It's creamy enough, but a little bit of extra unctuousness never hurt anybody. Oh my gosh, look how good that is. Hello, hello, Food 52. How are you? Chef Millie Peartree here, but you can call me Millie. We are here in New York City's Food 52 studio. A little bit different from you guys in my home kitchen, but I'm happy we are outside and a little change of scenery, but still Millie's down home cooking. Today we are gonna make something super simple, something special, something that you guys see me make before, but with a little twist. We're gonna make my famous caramelized banana pudding, but we're gonna make it in pie form. So let's get to it. First up, what do you normally start with? A nice crust. So same traditional flavors. I have 8 ounces of vanilla wafers, but you know, if you wanna use ginger snaps, just make sure they're a nice crunchy cookie, not something too chewy, because we're gonna add some wonderful flavors to it. So I have 8 tablespoons of butter melting on the stove, and I have a 1/4 cup of sugar. So we're gonna start with our vanilla wafers, and we're gonna put it in a Ziploc bag. Again, if you have a food processor, you wanna pull it out, feel free to use it. But you know, today, we're just gonna get a little workout in, put it in a Ziploc bag, get the smashing. And this is something you could do with your children as well. Or when somebody gets on your nerves, you know how that go? And you don't wanna, because we don't, no violence, but every once in a while you wanna beat something up, we're gonna beat up these cookies, right? Okay, so we're gonna let the air out the bag because we don't want the bag to explode on us. And we're just gonna get the crushing. They're not gonna get as fine as it would in a food processor, so you might have to use a little bit more cookies, but you know, make it your own. Okay, I think we're in a good space. Oh yeah, this looks pretty good. We have a couple bigger pieces in there, but again, texture. I like texture. I like crispy and crunchy things. So we're gonna pour our Nilla wafers back into our bowl. We're gonna add our 1/4 cup of sugar. And I have my melted butter. Pour that in there. And so now that we have all of our first 3 ingredients combined, just gonna mix it. Smells good already. And now that we have this well combined, got it all over the counter. Okay, so we're gonna take our Nilla butter sugar mixture and we're gonna add it to our 9-inch spring-form pan. So if you don't have a spring-form pan, feel free to use a pie plate. Okay, we're gonna press this in. Okay, and then I'm going to use a measuring cup. And the reason why I'm using this is because I want it even. You know, we wanna make sure that the bottom is fully pressed in. It can come up the sides a little bit, because who doesn't like an extra layer of crust, you know, with their banana pudding? So we're gonna actually pop this into a preheated 350-degree oven for about 8 to 10 minutes, depending on your oven, depending on the altitude, longitude, whatever it is. But it's gonna take us about 10 minutes, and we're using an electric oven. So make sure you watch it a little bit if you have a gas oven. Pop this in, be right back. So now that we have our crust in the oven, what do you think we're gonna do next? You got it. We're gonna start our pudding mixture. So we have 2.5 cups of half and half, 1 cup of granulated sugar, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and 4 egg yolks. And we're gonna separate it and use only the yolks. Do not throw away the whites. We'll have our whites for the omelet since we're eating, you know, pudding today. We'll eat a little bit cleaner tomorrow, but make sure you enjoy it, right? Okay, so let's get started. Well, actually, I smell my crust. It's been about 10 minutes, so I'm gonna pull it out because we do not want to burn it. Ooh. So let's get started on this custard. First, we're going to separate our eggs. All right, this is what I like to do. It's not, you know, chefy, but I just like to slide the yolks between the egg and the whites from my finger. Look, the whole yolk comes right out. No, I got time for that back and forth with the shells, and that's why clean hands are a must. Whites just fall right through. Just have to wash our hands one more time, but that's all right. last one. There we go. There we go. Now, wash our hands. All right, so let's get to making our custard. So we're gonna add our half and half to this pan. Going to add our sugar, salt. Gonna add our cornstarch, and it's very important that you add cornstarch to a cold liquid if you're cooking it, because if you add it when it's hot, it's gonna clump up and it's gonna be a gummy mess. Make sure cold, slurry. And then we're gonna add our egg yolks to this. Now, traditionally, what people would do is they'll temper, they'll get all of this going, and then they'll add some of the cream to the yolks to temper it to make sure they don't scramble. I do it all at once, but if you feel as if you're going to scramble your eggs, totally add the hot liquid to the egg yolks. But I add it all in because I'm gonna stand here and watch it and whisk it. Break up my eggs. We in here crushing wafers, we whisking puddings. Get our workout on. Burn some calories before we eat calories. You see how this works? Exercise and cook at the same time. As it cooks, as it tightens up, you'll actually see it happening. And you'll feel it too in your wrist. So when you whisk this, you want to cook it on like a medium low heat, only because we don't want it to scorch. Nobody wants any burnt custard, and it can happen quickly. We don't want scrambled eggs and we don't want scorched pudding. That burnt flavor you can never get out. Eggs, you can strain it, but who wants to go through that? Just keep it low and slow. Happens in about 10 minutes or so. So, put some music on, get to grooving, and just whisk away. What music would you guys listen to while you're whisking? I think you should put it in the comments. You know your pudding is almost done when it starts to get super thick, and that's from the cornstarch, and all that foam and those bubbles subside. So our pudding is done. So 2 more steps, and then it'll be totally complete. So I'm gonna take it off the fire because we're using electric and that's still hot, and we don't want it to burn while I get my other 2 ingredients in here. So I'm gonna take my whisk out. And another way you can check to see if your pudding is done, if it coats the back of a wooden spoon. So look at how thick that is. Look, don't even have to run my finger through it. Nice and tight consistency. And I don't have to strain it, nice and smooth. Why is it nice and smooth? Because we cooked it low and slow. We constantly whisked it. There's no scrambled eggs in here. It's not scorched on the bottom. It's just a perfect pudding consistency. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add our pure vanilla extract, because we're gonna give it vanilla flavoring. Gonna give that a little stir. So now to make our pudding velvety smooth, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter to give it that extra unctuousness. It's gonna be creamy, it's gonna be smooth. I'm getting excited. So 1 and 2. Pop. Mix it in here. See that sheen that butter gave it? Nice and glistening. All right, so now that our pudding is completely done, we're gonna put it in a bowl so it can cool. Look at how smooth that is. The pudding is totally a beautiful pale yellow. I will not be adding any any food coloring to this. We do not need anything artificial. These are all pantry ingredients, things that we have on hand. No need to add anything extra to it. It's delicious on its own, and we don't need to add any extra color because we have color. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna add a piece of plastic wrap directly to the pudding, and we're gonna push it on top because we don't want it to develop a skin. We do not want that. We're gonna put her in the oven to chill, and we're gonna make the, what am I talking about, the oven? Child, listen, we're gonna put our pudding in the refrigerator to chill, and while that happens, we're going to caramelize our bananas. We have 6 bananas, 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, 2 tablespoons of light brown sugar, but if you have dark brown sugar, feel free to use that. It has more of a molasses taste, which would be great with the crust. A half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and again, pure 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Okay, so let's get started on our bananas. In this recipe, we're not going to go for a super ripe banana, but this is great for bananas that aren't ripe. You see how these still are a little bit green? This is the perfect texture, perfect consistency, because they won't mash up on us. So we have our pan going, And we're gonna melt our 2 tablespoons of butter. And while our butter is going, we're going to chop our bananas because we want that butter waiting for us, right? All right, so now that we have our 2 tablespoons of butter melted, we're gonna add our 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. And we're going to add our half a teaspoon of cinnamon. And this is totally optional. I just like the warmth of spice. You could totally use nutmeg in here. Now we're gonna add our bananas. So everything is combined in the pan, and we're just gonna finish with 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Let's get the teaspoon out. There we go, teaspoon. So I have my crust done, my pudding is cooling, my bananas are done. The last and final step, let's assemble it. Okay. So of course, plastic wrap so it didn't develop a skin. And what I like to do is I like to add a base of banana. I'm gonna add half of our pudding. And our last layer of pudding. Now that we're done, we're gonna add plastic wrap over it again. Why? No skin. We're gonna pop it back in the oven for a minimum of 4 hours. Jeez Louise, what is it with me in this oven? Goodness. And we're gonna pop it into a refrigerator for a minimum of 4 hours up to overnight so it can set. So now I have my swap. Beautiful, nice and cold, nice and chilled. All right, let's see. I'm gonna unmold. Look at how beautiful. Gorgeous, 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 but we're not finished. Garnish, everything's gonna look pretty. So we're gonna take some crushed vanilla wafers, sprinkle them on top. Extra, extra pretty. Just a little bit more cinnamon. Just a little bit. So gorgeous, right? Okay, so without further ado, let's cut into a slice of this cake. Oh, this is pretty. Oh, it's on this side. Okay, right. All right, so let's cut into this pie. Ooh, that crust is thick. And I'm just gonna add like a little bit of whipped cream on mine. It's creamy enough, but a little bit of extra unctuousness never hurt anybody. Oh my gosh, look how good that is. Oh, see how thick that crust is? Well, it's like a shortbread crust. Let's try it. Oh my gosh. This is just so delicious. It's, you know, crispy, crunchy, creamy, decadent. It's everything that you want in a pie. And it has like this nostalgic feeling of when you go to the cookout, you go to your grandparent or your auntie's house during the holidays. I definitely think that you should try this recipe. You know, it's super simple and easy to do, and you can find it on Food 52. I'm glad you guys joined me for this recipe and looking forward to hanging out again soon.